So I live in New York City, and one of the biggest problems with living in New York City is that there's no place to park. And so I live on a street here where there's parking only on certain days on certain sides of the street, and there's a school up the road and you can never park there. So my landlord, who lives downstairs, was really nice and allows me to park in her driveway. She barely uses her car, so I was thrilled to have that opportunity, and she didn't even charge me anything extra for it. So I was parking there, it was fine, there was no issues. And then one day, probably 2 months ago, I come home and there's this tiny little green car parked in the driveway, and I had never seen it before. And I thought nothing of it. I thought maybe she had someone over, it was a guest, and then it happened a few more times. So I finally, after about 2 weeks, emailed her and said, what's going on with this car? It's hard for me to park in the driveway. And she wrote back and said, oh, that's my father-in-law. He moved to the area and now he's parking in the driveway in addition to you. So if you could figure out a way to share it, like if you're not there, he'll park there and vice versa. And I was kind of surprised because she never warned me that this was going to happen, and I had been counting on using this spot. And so the last few days it's been fine. He hasn't been around, or I don't know what happened to him. And then all of a sudden this morning at 10 o'clock, I'm minding my own business. It's a Sunday morning. It's a day off. I get the doorbell starts ringing, just someone's hitting it. And I looked out the window, and it was my landlord's husband. And I can tell that he was trying to move her car, which is parked in front of mine. But rather than being courteous and coming upstairs and knocking on the door and asking you to move the car, he decided to be rude about it. So I went downstairs and I was going to confirm he wanted me to move the car, and he was just kind of standing at his car and didn't make eye contact with me. And I thought it was really rude. And so I moved my car and then I waved to them as they drove away.